Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, if you don't like the job you can just quit, okay? Perfect parts, you say? Next time specify your sandwich. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. If you don't like the job you can just quit, okay? A bit of context here. I'm originally from Syria and I spent around 7 to 8 months in Sudan, Africa, and that country being a third world country and super poor didn't have any good jobs, but at the same time prices were so cheap you can live with only around $100 a month, rent, bills, food and water, but gasoline was expensive to the point you might need around $5,100 just for commuting to work, so it comes to around $200 per month if you're going to work by any kind of transportation. As for jobs, the best you can do without prior experience is either work in a restaurant or a factory for at most $100, which meant you had to be close to the job or get them to cover transportation. So, around 5 months ago, I got in contact with a restaurant owner and talked with him about a job offer I saw. The job we talked about was being a warehouse manager for the restaurant. My shift starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m., 7 days a week with only one vacation day per month. And I get one sandwich per day as lunch and one meal per week to take home. I asked about the salary, and he said we will discuss it later. I asked how I will organize the warehouse, and he said he will provide me with a laptop to work on later. I agreed to work a trial period of a week, and then we will discuss the salary and see if it works out. First day on the job he hands me the keys of their warehouse, and when I open it I find a glorious mess. I ask my coworkers about it, and they said no one has worked as a warehouse manager for the past few months. I go in and start looking at what we have in the warehouse and taking notes. Then I started a new Google account on my phone, and made a new Excel sheet on it, and sorted everything there. By the end of day 1 I had went through most of the things in the warehouse, and I only have 2 words to describe what I saw there: holy shit, it was such a mess. The workers didn't even know what they have in that warehouse, i.e. they need mustard and they don't find it the moment they look at the shelves. They buy a new box. And I can say for sure the warehouse was left like this for more than a year, because I found meat in the freezer that was expired since more than 2 years ago. I'm never gonna eat anything with meat in it from that restaurant. Second day on the job, I started actually doing my job by ordering new supplies, sorting the list I made on my phone by type so we can find items in it quickly, putting away the expired products, etc. During my second day, and out of nowhere the boss comes to the warehouse and gives me a list of everyone in the restaurant and tells me to take their attendance because the guy responsible for this is busy with other things in the kitchen. I tell him I still don't know anyone in the restaurant, but he insists that I can just learn their names while doing my job. Okay, whatever. I'm trying to impress him the first few days, so I will do it. By the end of day 2, I had finished inputting everything into my phone, throwing away all expired ingredients, and even taking attendance. All that's left is physically sorting out the warehouse to make it look better, and I will have done a great job, and was hoping for a good answer from the boss. I go to discuss things with him at the end of my shift. I show him how I sorted everything on my phone and tell him that once he bring over a laptop we can just move the file there, and it's easy for anyone to check the inventory since it's on Google and all that stuff. Then I explained to him the state of the warehouse when I came, and how much I worked to make it better, and he was really impressed and praised me for a job well done. Then I asked how much my salary will be. Your salary will start at $60, and then as you work I will improve it, and maybe in a few months you will reach $120. Me, what? I can't afford to even stay alive until then. Transportation between here and my house alone are $50. Are you telling me to not eat or pay rent during this month? At least dash. Cuts me off with an angry voice. If you don't like it then you can just leave. I figured that he wasn't someone to be reasoned with, so I immediately answered okay and left. Bullet successfully dodged. The next day one of the coworkers there calls me asking where I keep the list of their inventory, because he didn't find it, and I answered that there is no list. He was surprised and asked about the list I showed the boss, and I said that it was actually on my phone, and he asked me to send it to him, to which I reply with I'm sorry, but since I quit I just removed the file from my phone. Have fun sorting through that mess, and I hang up. It wasn't that big of a victory, but at least I didn't give them the results of my efforts for free, because it happened like that my 2 days of work there were unpaid. Perfect parts, you say? This just happened earlier today, so I figured I'd share it with everyone. It may get a little technical / hard to understand for folks outside manufacturing, so I will clarify if anyone has questions or update the post with better wording. This might get long-winded. A bit of backstory is needed here for understanding the scenario. I work in a robotic CNC cell. I make stuff out of aluminum with robots and machines that works on a 2x 10-hour per day schedule. When I come in, the robots have run lights out, unattended, for 2 hours, and they do the same after I leave. Since no one is around to pass off any messages when I arrive, we leave notes for the other shift and kind of play the telephone game. My coworker, Patrick, and I run up to 7 machines at once, depending on currently running jobs and the workload. A few weeks ago, I got word that our company got some massive orders for an American firearm manufacturer, and they wanted the parts done ASAP, if not sooner. Classic election year. I had run these parts a couple of years ago and remembered how much of a pain in the ass they were. Now, when we started production on these AR-15 handguards, we had already been running first operation parts for another company within the corporate umbrella for years. Instead of just supplying them with parts, we were making the precursor parts, then finishing the machining process in-house too. Here is where the MC comes into place. I had been cleaning up/deburring the parts in the manner of which I was accustomed, and Patrick was likewise helping after I showed him what to do. One day, the head of the project, Janice, came down to talk about the parts, with a massive revised standard to deburr and review the handguards. Our workload basically doubled. One of the changes said to keep the machine going at all times, and that any parts we couldn't get to would be stacked on a pallet for someone to get to later. Another said that the surface finish needed to be perfect and defect-free. Now enter the shit show. We get slammed with all kinds of these handguard orders, huge size orders and multiple different length parts, and it's wildly apparent we can't keep up. Parts are filling up the pallets, and every day is a fustercluck. On top of that, parts were being found left and right that apparently were not up to the customer's ludicrously high standards. The situation was not good. Janice left several notes about parts being found with burrs and surface defects. At this point, I'm getting annoyed. For context, this is what all went into the process. A first operation done on one machine, a second op, much lengthier in runtime, on another, then a several-minute-long, very picky deburring process, tumbling parts in ceramic media for 20 minutes, then a thorough inspection before initialing the part in Sharpie, before bagging and boxing. I went over some of the day and weekend shift parts, and found a super sloppy bunch of parts, and was essentially getting scolded frequently for their lazy attempts at cleaning up the parts. I decided then and there that I would, in fact, make perfect parts, the process be damned. Every day for the last 2 weeks, I pored over the part inspection with the keen eye and intensity of a bald eagle hunting for prey. Any and every bit of that part got buffed out with Scotch-Brite /filed down /brushed to absolute perfection. Defects as small and pissant as these were painstakingly blended. Naturally, this took a ton of time. Some parts took upwards of 20 minutes apiece. Parts started piling up to the point that Janice came around to figure out what was going on as well as one-on-one inspect our parts. It turns out, day shift wasn't even bothering to deburr parts and just piled them up, and I was being too good at inspecting, after being called a devious little shit for my antics and drawing a laugh. Janice backed off some of the grueling inspection, so it sped us back up a bit to keeping up. Next time specify your sandwich. I love these stories, but I sadly have very few of them since I'm not a malicious person. I think this is my only truly malicious exception. It only recently popped into my head while spending time with my family over Christmas, and I thought I'd share. Growing up, schools never mandated hot lunches. Honestly, I hate that some schools are doing that now. Our family's policy was we could each choose 2 days a week when the school was making something we really liked to order hot lunch. Other than that, we'd take a packed lunch. I made the packed lunches as I love working with food to this day, and it gave my parents one less thing to worry about in the evening. Lunches were made the night before and kept in the fridge. The one annoying thing about this was my sister, elementary school, was a picky eater, and my brother, middle school, didn't like deciding what he wanted almost every day. So when I asked my siblings what they wanted in their lunch, they'd say they didn't know or give some vague response. Sometimes they'd then complain about what I did pack. Then I was handed an opportunity to teach them both a lesson. You see, my brother has a sarcastic sense of humor. 99% of the time it's all in good fun, and either leads to a laugh or something more funny down the road. On this particular occasion, when I asked what he wanted for lunch, he said, "Make me an air sandwich." So I took a sandwich bag and put in 2 slices of bread. Nothing but air between them. I then put a sticky note on the sandwich bag saying enjoy your air sandwich, smiley face. Now to be fair, I wasn't going to let him go hungry over this. I put in a lot of fruit, a double helping of potato chips and, if I remember right, a little Debbie's dessert of some sort. It wasn't a hearty lunch, but he'd be fed. Plus, I later learned his friends pitched in with their own lunches when they saw what happened. I also didn't repeat this to my sister. I was tempted, but she had actually asked for chips and hummus that day. No point in punishing her when she had actually made an effort that day. Needless to say, when we got him, my brother went right up to me and shouted, "Really?" I started laughing. He complained about how he hadn't had much breakfast and was starving at lunchtime only to find 2 pieces of bead and the note. He went on to say that he needed meat. Ironically, he's now a vegetarian. My mom was nearby and asked what happened. When she found out and I explained I had made sure he wouldn't starve, she sided with me. It was funny, overall harmless, and she had been trying to teach my siblings that lesson for ages. My brother's still slightly mad at me for that, but to be fair, from that day on he always gave me a proper answer when I asked for lunch requests. He still has his sarcastic sense of humor too, and while I do sometimes use it to tease him, it's never anything truly malicious. End of the day, I love my brother, sense of humor and all. Oh. Pro tip for anyone else facing this. I've since learned you'll often get a better answer if you ask what cuisine do you want. Do they want Italian? Seafood? Barbecue? From there you can narrow down your options and figure out what to make. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.